Welcome to the Epic Saga Society, a podcast that travels beyond the stars and realms to the worlds we know and love. I'm Corliss Valerian's youngest bastard son, and I am Raina's uncle, Calvin Hamilton.
Very nice, man. And I'm a smuggler with a not-so-secret heart of gold who's trying to get his onions past the blockade into King's Landing, Carlos Alatorre. We're excited to have you with us as we delve into the sci-fi and fantasy franchises from the books, movies, shows, video games, and anything else we feel like talking about.
Yes, and each episode we explore the iconic stories and universes of beloved franchises like Star Wars, Dune, Marvel, and many, many more, delving into the characters, the themes, and epic moments that make them unforgettable.
So get ready, because over the next 8 episodes, we're visiting the world of Westeros for one of our favorite sagas, The House of the Dragon, Season 2.
All right, so let's get into it with the first episode, A Son for a Son. So, Carlos, you want to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So, spoiler warning, just so you know, this episode will contain a lot of spoilers if you have not already seen episode 1, A Son for a Son. With that out of the way, let's get started. So, the episode opens with a wonderful narration by none other than Cregan Stark, and a flyover of, what was that place, Calvin? What was it? What did we see?
We saw the Castle Black. No, Winterfell. I'm sorry, Winterfell.
Yeah, Winterfell. Yes.
Winterfell.
Over Winterfell. Yeah, sorry, I put you on the spot there.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we saw a flyover of Winterfell, and we saw the wall. Long time since we've seen that. Winter is coming. And Cregan Stark emphasizes that the Starks have always had a duty of defending the wall. So Cregan is discussing this with Jacaerys, who, as we saw in the last season, he's trying to secure a potential alliance with the North to bolster Rhaenyra's forces, because war is coming. But Jace is a little skeptical by Cregan's conflicted response. Also, just a little Easter egg, Cregan Stark is actually carrying ice. The Valyrian sword, the Valyrian steel sword that Ned Stark carries in the Game of Thrones season 1. So that was awesome. That was really awesome to see. So we get a great quote from Cregan Stark. And Cregan Stark says, "Starks do not forget their oaths, my prince, but you must know my gaze is forever torn between north and south. In winter, my duty to the wall is even more dire than the one I owe to King's Landing." Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that quote. So Cregan actually takes Jace to the kind of edge of the wall, and he shows him a view of the land beyond the wall. And as he does this, Cregan tells him that his father, Cregan Stark's father, brought, which I believe was Rickon Stark, if I'm not mistaken, that his father brought King Jacaerys and Queen Alysanne to the wall, and their dragons refused to cross it. So we're going to come back to that, because that's really, really interesting. Now, Maester Munkin calls this the Pact of Ice and Fire, and that's something that we see in the book. But I just want to ask, Kevin, what'd you think of this scene?
Oh man, this whole scene, starting with the flyover of Winterfell, and seeing Cregan Stark talking to Jace on the wall was it just brought back so many memories. It felt good to see the wall again. We hadn't, seen the wall all season 1. So it's really cool to see a Stark on his job doing their duty, atop of the wall, right? And even the line about, hey, listen, we're going to support you, but let there be no mistake. Our number one priority is defending what's out there. And
defending the realm. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And in that moment, Jace asks, what's out there? And he just replies, death. And it's like, oh,
Death. Yeah. Oh
we
man, chills, chills.
seriously, and it's the Night King, it's the White Walkers,
Yeah,
and
you
so
know
for
what's out
us,
there.
exactly. And so for us as viewers, we're like, oh man, like we know what's out there. And now that we've all seen at this point, I'm sure, how Game of Thrones ends, and you see the threat that's actually out there. And so just like seeing them talk, seeing them on the wall, just brought up so many nostalgic feelings, and just knowing that what he's saying is true. He, the Starks, and everyone that's manning the wall at Castle Black and all the other castles, they have the most important job of anyone else in Westeros. Love the
Oh yeah.
scene. Love the scene.
Yeah, preach, man. Yeah, that this scene, I loved this scene. It was my favorite. Seeing the wall was incredible. Seeing them get on that rickety ass elevator going up to the top was awesome. Just the different tones and the different styles, the way they carried themselves. Just I loved it. I love that whole thing. We had
Same.
our favorite North accents coming out of Cregan
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
right?
Come on. I was
That
like,
was
it's Ned
awesome.
Stark. It's Ned
Yeah,
Stark,
it's
the
that side. This
ancestor.
is him. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
It's
was
him.
great. Oh, I loved it. I loved it. And then something I wanted to add, a nice little Easter egg here, was that in the book, Queen Alysanne and King Jaehaerys visit the wall, and he makes reference to that their dragons do not want to pass the wall. But he says at this spot, Queen Alysanne and King Jaehaerys, they didn't want to cross the wall with their dragons, or at least their dragons were hesitant to do so. Now, what's interesting about this is that if that is the spot, then the area that they're in this episode is a place called the Queen's Gate. So,
Mm.
as we know on the wall, there are many different castles. Jon Snow was on, which castle was he on?
Castle
Um,
Black.
Castle Black, yeah, thank you. So there's several different castles, and one of those castles in this one used to be called Snowgate, and so that's the one they're at. And it was actually changed to Queen's Gate after Queen Alysanne visited with her dragon. She actually offered the Night's Watch. She said, "Oh, I'll pay for the construction of another castle called Deep Lake." And for that, the Lord Commander said, "Hey, we're going to rename this castle after you, Queen's Gate."
Mm.
So that's a little bonus Easter egg right there.
That's a great tidbit, and I love that where you get to see other castles, because in the original Game of Thrones series, we don't often see the other castles. I think they're like mentioned a few
Yeah.
times, and we may see them like once or twice, but
Yeah,
that's just a
I
good
think it
reminder.
was it Gray? Oh man, I forgot what it was called. I love them. Yeah,
Yeah,
we just see Castle Black, and then we see the one by the ocean. Um,
yeah,
oh, Castle by the Sea. How silly. Yeah.
yes, Castle by the Sea. Yeah, I think that's the actual castle that the Night King went through.
Yeah.
I think when he came south of the
Yes.
wall.
When they blew up the wall. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
right.
But it's just a great reminder of like the fact that there are, at this time, the
So many.
walls, there are so many castles, and the wall was so much better manned at this time. So just a really cool like tidbit. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem. So this scene ends where they're interrupted by the arrival of a raven, which brings the horrible, horrible, tragic news of Lucerys's death, thanks to Aemond One Eye. So we know that very little time has passed. It must be what, a couple days, maybe a week or two. So
Yeah, I think it says about, as I saw somewhere, it was like about 10 days in between the two episodes. So yeah, just like a week and a half.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah. And so after that, we cut to Dragonstone, where Rhaenys and Meleys have returned from a recon mission in the Narrow Sea, and she's approached by Daemon, who has strong feelings about the absence of Queen Rhaenyra from her court since the death of her son. And what we know is that Rhaenyra is searching for proof that her son is actually dead, and Rhaenys refuses Daemon's orders to hunt down Aemon, thanks to her loyalty. And we'll be talking about this later, but shout out to Rhaenys for sticking up for Rhaenyra, and I think she actually says about something to the effect of, Rhaenyra is a mother. She's doing what a mother's
yeah,
doing, like she's grieving, right?
let's try it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just thought that was like awesome, and it was really interesting. I don't know, how did you feel about just the stark contrast between like Rhaenys and how she follows orders, and she's like, "We're gonna listen to the queen," and Damon's like, "No, we gotta act." Like, what do you think about that contrast?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because, in season one, we saw that Rhaenys, she was a little bit suspicious of Rhaenyra's like intentions in the beginning.
Hmm.
But I like the fact that she really sees this as well. Rhaenyra's just fighting for what's hers because she didn't get a chance to fight for what she believed was hers, right? She's the
Yep.
queen that never was. I believe that was her little nickname. So I like the fact that she's really loyal to Rhaenyra, and even
Yep.
if she doesn't completely agree or believe in some strategy that Rhaenyra has, she's not going to let anyone see that. She's like
Yep.
her right hand lady.
Yep.
And so I love the fact that she kind of is one of the few people who can put Damon in his place and be kind of like, bro, I don't take orders from you. Like you're not my boss, and
Yeah.
you don't know what's going on. So I really liked that part.
Yeah, exactly. And then correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just trying to think how everyone's related. Technically, Rhaenys is Damon's like great aunt, maybe, or
Yeah,
I
that's
could. I
that's
think
right. She is I believe she's the cousin to Viserys.
okay.
So
So then she's Damon's cousin then, since Damon and Viserys were
yeah,
brothers.
yeah. So they're cousins. I believe they're cousins because she was the yes, that's right. She was the daughter of Viserys's uncle.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and that's why she thought she had the claim. That's why she thought Laenor also had a better claim, is because she was the daughter of, and I forget Viserys's father's name. I think it was Balin, but his brother was the next in line. He
Yeah.
died, so then it went over to Balin. He died, so now it's okay. Which one of the kids gets it? So
Yeah.
yeah, they are cousins, which means as daughter to Viserys, Rhaenyra would be her second cousin.
Yeah. Second cousin. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. These Targaryens it gets confusing.
That's it, because they marry their siblings and they
Yeah,
marry
when they start
cousins.
when they
Yeah.
start having kids, then it gets really confusing. All right.
Yeah, there's like double, like your grandfather is also your father, like all different types of stuff. It's
Yeah,
just weird.
yeah. I am
But
my own grandpa. Yeah, all
right.
that stuff.
Yeah, one other thing I want to mention before we move on is it's just really cool how Rhaenys has resolved herself to be such a staunch supporter of Rhaenyra, given the fact that Rhaenyra used to be married to their oldest son, and their oldest son
Yes, that's
died,
right. That's right.
died. Like they don't know that
Wow.
Rhaenyra
Quote
faked.
unquote died. Yeah.
Exactly. Like we don't know that they don't know Corlys and Rhaenys. They don't know that Rhaenyra actually helped their son fake his death so that he could like sail and
So he
like
could
be a free
live
man,
his
like
life.
live
Yeah.
his life as like a gay man, right? And
Live those
so
best life in Essos. Yeah, absolutely.
exactly.
That,
So
I forgot about that. I really forgot about that. That is, well, props to her for kind of getting over that grudge.
right, exactly.
She was really holding it against Rhaenyra. It sounds like she's really fighting for something greater than well, I mean, that's definitely distressing to lose a son. I mean, I can't imagine. But the fact of the matter is she believes in what Rhaenyra is fighting for.
Absolutely. So that was really cool. But yeah, moving on. So we see Lord Corlys walking through what looks like the town of Hull, inspecting a ship in dry dock from Stepstone, and eager to get his fleet to full readiness before the war. And he speaks to a man named Alan of Hull, and it's implied that Alan saved Corlys's life when he was almost lost at sea. Also, very interesting to see the interaction, the way that Alan shows up. He's very subdued when he's speaking to Corlys. He's not smiling. He's like, he barely wants to thanks. He's just, it seems like he just wants to stop talking to Corlys as quick as possible. He's like, okay, yep, thank you. All right,
Yeah.
like, let me get out of here. And
Yeah.
he hands Corlys a sword, which was commissioned for Lucerys. And so, like, another quick question, Carlos. So Corlys is handed this sword that was Luke's, R.I.P. Luke, right?
Yeah.
Did he and Rhaenys do you think that they knew that Lucerys was not their true grandchild? I mean, they had to know,
I
right?
mean, they have to
They
know,
they had
right?
to,
Yeah,
right?
like come
Right.
on. Yeah. I
Right.
think there's literally no one who doesn't know that except maybe
Yeah.
Viserys. And
Yeah.
that he was just he's like, say that again and well, have your tongue out. Yeah, so yeah, I think they know, but I think it doesn't matter to Corliss. I don't know, I kind of get that vibe from him that he's like, I want an heir and an heir worthy of Driftmark.
Mm,
And so I think that's what was more important to him, right? I don't
yeah.
know. What do you think? Like, I think they know, but I think Corliss doesn't really care.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you go back to season one, listening to some of the conversations that Corlys and Rhaenys had, Rhaenys says to Corlys, like, you know our son's true nature. And I think it's like early in season one when they're trying to figure out who they're going to betroth their son. Is his name Laenor, right?
Yeah, Laenor. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because I think, when Viserys offers to say, hey, like, I think that, I would love for Rhaenyra to marry Laenor. They're talking about it, and she's like, you know his true nature. Like, come on, like, let's not be stupid here. So they
Yeah,
definitely knew about his true nature, that he was gay, right? And I think that when they saw those kids, they knew what was up. They knew. Come on. Like you
yeah,
look at
they
Damon's
know. Yeah,
children, Damon's children with their daughter, they black, they dark. Come
yeah,
on, and they have the
yeah.
blonde
Come on.
hair, and like, come on, like those kids, they don't look
Yeah.
mixed at all. They look, they look like strong men.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They look
Yeah.
like strong men for
Eamon
sure.
was
So,
Eamon was on point with that one. Yeah, no, I do think, and it might be part of this whole thing that Corliss he doesn't want to admit what Laenor's true nature was. He doesn't want to admit that, hey, he liked guys. Like
right,
that's what it is. I want to say, like, because he didn't want to admit that, he just really fell in love with Rhaenyra's children as his true grandchildren, kind of
hmm,
like that. Oh, these are my grandkids, and it's just the ultimate denial. So they
yeah,
mean a lot to me, and the more I believe in it, and the more I love these kids, the less it makes it true that Laenor these weren't like my son's blood children.
yep,
So I kind of feel like there's a hint of that. And Rhaenys is just like, oh, you poor old man. Like, jeez.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's a great question. So after that, we shift to King's Landing, where the Red Keep's defenses are being shored up with scorpions. So, as we
Mm,
know, scorpions, we saw these in season 7 and 8 of Game of Thrones. They were a creation by Qyburn, who
yep.
was the shady almost maester, who was doing experiments with dead people.
A foe
But yeah,
maester, dark
yeah, the
maester.
focus. Yeah, so the gray Jedi of the
Yeah.
Maesters. But yeah, no, he made these long range artillery weapons. He might have actually not been the true creator of them. I believe that these were around Westeros. I believe they used them in Dorne to fight off some of the dragons during Aegon's conquest. But so they're making all of these scorpions on the Red Keep. It's really tense in the city. We see that Aegon, King Aegon now, he's really settled into his role as king, um, leading the Green Council, or trying to, running things on impulse, basically, and ignorance, and just no respect for his advisors. And his sister wife, Helena, mentions that something really ominous. She's afraid of the rats within King's
Mm.
Landing. So, Calvin, I got to ask you, what's going on with Helena, man? Like, is this a premonition? Is this stress? Is this just some Targaryen inbreeding, like that just comes out as schizophrenia? Like, what do you think of this?
It's inbreeding. It's inbreeding for sure. No,
Yeah.
just kidding. No, I think it's very important to pay very close attention to what Helene is saying, because she's actually, they don't actually explicitly say it, but this doesn't spoil anything. She's actually having dragon dreams, but even though like she doesn't
Ah,
know it, and so Helena's having dragon dreams, like dreams of the future, and it's actually similar to what Aegon the Conqueror had many years ago. So I think Aegon the Conqueror's dragon dreams allowed him to see, the eventual, the Night King and what was beyond the wall, which is the reason that he, brought together the Seven Kingdoms is because of that dream, right? And so Helena actually has those dreams. So it's very important to listen to what Helena's saying because they may or may not come to pass. And you also have to interpret what she's saying also because Helena's not the most coherent
Yeah,
person. And so it's
it's
like
not
she's
clear,
someone who she's been blessed with these dragon dreams, but she's also,
but she
I
just
will say, she suffers a little bit from that Targaryen breeding. Like you can tell she's not all right
yeah.
bad in some
Oh
ways,
yeah.
but still, like she's not speaking out of her, out of her ass.
She looks like a little bit yeah yeah she's not just nothing like she does seem like a very sensitive like she was a sensitive child and just very delicate it seems like
Hmm.
and so I feel like when you have these dragon dreams which is very interesting by the way dragon dreams and like the potential premonitions who knows what they look like in your mind and so this
Mm-hmm.
poor sensitive delicate young lady I imagine that it's jarring and it's upsetting. Um, if we
Yeah,
remember in season one, she said, "What did she say? The beast beneath the boards." You remember that?
I do. Yeah. Oh.
So she said, "Beast beneath the boards," and I think I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people who think different things about what that meant, but I assumed it was the dragon Meleys when Rhaenys freed Meleys from the dragon pit and it burst through the dragon pit
Yeah.
and like just messed up anyone who was standing there. I believe that's what she was talking about. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. And it could be something else. And I think that's the interesting thing about dreams is like, and we see this in the Bible for those that know or that have read the Bible. It's one thing to have dreams, and we see people in the Bible who like have dreams, but they don't really understand how to interpret them. And then so there are
Yeah,
like dream interpreters that tell them, "Oh, this is what it actually means." And so to your point about not knowing how the dreams are showing up, like what images is she seeing? Is she seeing scenes from what may come to pass? We don't know how it's showing up, right? And so, yeah, it's very, very interesting.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, so then after that, we enter the bedchamber of a private meeting between Alicent and Sir Kristen Cole, that guy. So how did this come to be? Alicent was this, she did everything right, she listened to everything her father told her. She had children by Viserys, right?
That
And
girl.
we saw
Yeah,
Kristen Cole was all over the place in season one. He,
yeah.
had sex with Rhaenyra, and then, he killed a guy, and then, he killed Laenor's, boyfriend or whatever it was. Like,
Oh
Kristen Cole was
yeah,
all over
that's
the
right.
place. Yeah, when they were
Damn.
at the little like party,
He
right? And
he killed Lord Beesbury in the council meeting too after
he,
Viserys' death.
which caused
Slammed
some
his face
issues.
against that marble ball. Oh man, that was horrible.
It was horrible. So yeah, this is an interesting, connection. How did this come to be? Why and why?
I don't know, man. I know we talked about this earlier, and like, who do you think made the first move? And I guess we kind of said like Allison made the first move. It seems right. I mean, that just seems like the only plausible thing. I feel like he would have gone straight to the dungeons if he had done
Mm,
anything to try to, sully her virtue. I guess,
facts.
but yeah, I don't know. I feel like they kind of relate to each other because they both feel wronged by Rhaenyra,
Mm,
and they're both in this situation where, well, not so much Kristen Cole. I was gonna say they both probably feel a little alienated and isolated, but I don't know. Kristen Cole kind of seems to be getting the right amount of attention in the council. So I don't know. I feel like they kind of had that shared hatred of Rhaenyra, and they grew closer, and it just seems like I don't know. That's what happened on some night where Allison was feeling really lonely, and
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that, since Alicent has, tried to do all the right things her whole life, she had children by Viserys. I'm sure that it wasn't the most passionate lovemaking ever, right? Because he was so much older than Alicent,
Oh my God, yeah,
This, now
that's
that
true.
he's been dead for a little while now, and this is finally her chance to get a little something for herself. And I think that there are a few places where she feels like she has control, especially now that Aegon's king. And we're gonna talk about it in a little bit. Like control, she feels like her control is slipping. But what she does have control over is are her pleasures, right? So
Her
this is
body, that body,
exactly.
yaddy, yaddy. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's right. So this is finally her chance to be like, no, I'm doing something for myself, right? I've always done for other people. This is for me. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I like that. I like that. That's yeah,
yeah,
for real. Okay.
they're getting it on. So
That's
yeah,
my
and
head canon now.
yep, head cannon right there. um, so yeah, in the Green Council chamber, Aegon brings his son Jaehaerys to the meeting, while the council discusses important things like Stormland's reluctance to commit. The Lannisters are raising their armies at Golden Tooth. The High Towers are gathering forces at Old Town, attempting to move to the Riverlands. And Aegon only cares about entertaining his son by embarrassing Thailand. Apparently, Alicent has been sending apology letters to Rhaenyra, and we also hear about the blockade of the Gullet. So you hear about all this strategy, all these updates, and then here is Aegon in this like very important meeting with all these updates. Telling his son to hop on to the
Yeah.
land.
This poor
Tywin
guy.
Lannister and they give him like what we know is like a piggyback ride or whatever. It's like, come on, like what are we talking about? What are we
Yeah,
doing?
what are you doing, man?
Yeah,
We're in session right now. Yeah, it was like bring your kid to work day. Yeah, it was yeah,
yeah,
that was
yeah.
ridiculous.
But it's also cool because we'll talk about this later. But how often do you see that kind of like relationship? Egon's just having fun with his son. So it was kind of cool to see the juxtaposition of like the serious and like the playful. I'm like, okay, because it's very rare that we get like levity in the Game of Thrones universe. So
That's true. And you know what it does, and maybe this is a controversial take, but it kind of shows that Aegon seems to be really invested in his kids, at least his son.
yeah,
It seems like he really wants to, I don't know, maybe be a better father than what he thought Viserys was to him.
I
Maybe.
agree.
I don't know. So so in this meeting, in walks Aemond, that guy with the
Mm.
one eye, and only Alicent seems to be against his presence there. So she's a little taken aback by this. Obviously, she's still a little angry at the fact that he killed Lucerys, right? She's the voice of reason concerning all of this talk about allowing the dragons to enter the war, because there's a lot of talk about, hey, let's release these dragons. And she's like, pump the brakes, because that's going to take us down a really dark path. So Aegon really wants to unleash them on the Sea Snakes blockade. That's Corlys Valerian's blockade. He's got one of the most powerful fleets in Westeros right now. But Alicent says, absolutely not. We do that, we're gonna go down a path we don't want to follow. But Aegon couldn't care less what anyone else says. So after the meeting, Alicent meets with Larys Strong. That's Larys Clubfoot, if we forgot, the one who burned the rest of his family alive.
Boo.
But yeah, bad form. Who he tells her that he's questioned everyone on staff and dealt with any traitors. There's actually a line in there where he says they no longer breathe our air. Yikes. So a lot of suspicion in the Red Keep. It's a very tense time in the Red Keep. And it spooks Alicent so much that she even dismisses her bathers when they're washing her. So we cut back to the coast near Storm's End. So that would be the Stormlands. And Rhaenyra is flying Syrax to the shores near Storm's End to search for Luke's body. So she does find something there. She scares the hell out of a lot of the fisher folk there, but she finds, I believe it's his saddle or parts of the dragon.
Yeah.
So how'd you feel about this, Calvin? How'd you feel about Rhaenyra seeing that? It's a pretty emotional moment for her.
Yeah, shout out to Emma Darcy for their
Oh,
acting in
yeah,
this moment and
absolutely.
this episode in general, this series in general, but like this moment in particular. I think this was a rare moment of a mother's love and compassion that, again, we don't often see this type of love, nor
Hmm.
this type of genuine emotion
Yeah.
from, characters in the Game of Thrones universe. If you compare it to, in the original Game of Thrones series, the person who we saw like suffer the most with seeing their children die, I think was Cersei. But Cersei was such a messed up individual that her sadness over the death of each of her children never seemed like genuine, never seemed real, right? It was just she was more mad about the fact that someone killed them than the fact that they died. That's always how it felt. But my goodness, her picking up the saddle, seeing the fallen wing, and just like
Yes.
the
Yes.
crushing realization, like that's the closure that she needed to see, like, wow, he actually is dead. Like this is his that like this is what's left of my son. Well, it got me. I was like that. Like she truly loved her children. Like this is like
Yeah.
a mother's love. Like it, such a powerful
Absolutely.
scene. You know?
Absolutely. It's like another burden. I feel like the men in the world of Westeros, they, yeah, they definitely feel, and they feel the deaths of their son, but it seems like they've become accustomed to fighting and to death and to battle. It's a heavier burden, it seems, for a woman who's ruling, because, I mean, she carried these kids. Um, and then she has to live with the possibility that they're going to go off to war and fight for her.
Yeah.
And then to contend with the idea that he's dead or he might still be alive somewhere. What if he's injured? What if he's hurt? I can't imagine what type of distress
Yeah.
that is for someone like Rhaenyra. So yeah, really sad scene. Um, we cut back to King's Landing and we enter the throne room where Aegon is hearing petitions from the small folk. And now, to his credit, I will say it does seem like he's trying to appease their concerns. It
Yep.
does kind of seem like he's really trying. He's really like, okay, let's do this king thing. I want to be liked. I want to be a good king. I want to live up to what I saw my father do, which was try to rule a peace in peacetime. So Otto Hightower is very frustrated by Aegon's promises. He sees a lot of them as unstrategic. Um, and he's saying to the farmers, yeah, I'll give you your sheep back, or yeah, we'll pay you for all of these scorpions that you're building. Yeah, we'll do all this for you. And you could just see Otto just completely frustrated. I
Yeah.
almost felt like he was just the biggest eye roll that was happening. Um, so then when we leave the throne room, Aegon leaves, he encounters Larys. And now Larys subtly suggests that Otto's time as hand should be at an end, and Aegon needs his own hand now. So Calvin, I wanted to ask, how does it serve Larys to convince Aegon to dismiss Otto? Like, well, what do you think's going on there?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, since season one, Laris has been like pulling strings from the background in a variety of
Oh
different
yeah,
ways. And I think that he's just trying to gain more power for himself. Ultimately, that's what most people are trying to do in the world of, Westeros. It would appear at this point that remove, he's trying to get Aegon to remove Otto as hand so that he then can become the hand. That's what it appears
mm,
at this point right now, to say, hey, like, you should remove him. And he's trying to be this like voice of reason behind, like, hey, I have your back. I'm trying to support you, and so that Aegon can say, you know what, like you supported me, you give me good ideas. Well, why don't you now be my hand? That's what it seems
yeah.
like. But what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of feel like he is maneuvering, and I don't really know if he's going. I don't know if I'd say he's going for hand, but he's not officially Master of Whisperers right now, I believe. It seems like
Okay.
he's right.
Right.
He's serving. He was serving Alicent for weird feet favors, right? And
Ugh.
in yeah,
Yeah.
shivers. Ugh. In season one, and And I wonder if he's still doing that, or I don't know, with Kristen Cole in the way, is he like, you know what? I don't want your feet. I want to see Kristen's feet. And she's like, yeah,
Yeah,
you're fired.
like you're out of here.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, no. I mean, I think I do think he's kind of maneuvering into a position very similar to Varys from Game of Thrones.
yep.
I wouldn't put them in the same league though. I wouldn't put Varys. I would never determine Varys as being as what's the right word I'm looking for? Underhanded as Laris. But yeah, I really do think he's positioning himself so that he can be able to influence whoever he has control of. And I think in this context, he doesn't have the same, he believes that Allison doesn't have the power anymore. So it's pointless to try to stay close to her. I almost feel like he's trying to maneuver closer to Aegon because whatever happens with Aegon or Rhaenyra, he needs to be in a position that he could either advise and influence Aegon or betray him if he has to. Because I do not put it past Laris to switch sides if he needed to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I see it. I see it like he's trying to collect Aegon.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that for sure. So next, we see that Otto visits Alicent as they bicker over how Otto likes to undermine Alicent when they're in the council room. Alicent wants her sons to respect her and appreciate her experience running a kingdom. Maybe they can avert a war if they were to listen to her. And Otto doesn't see an alternative, and Alicent hopes that she can at least steer her sons down a more moderate path. And it's like, Alicent, you don't even know who your own children are. Like, you think you really have a chance of, steering Aegon and Aemond in the other direction? Like, it's a little foolish.
Hell no. Yeah. Oh no.
Exactly. Like,
They
come
haven't
on.
listened to her since they were kids.
Exactly. So, yeah. And on Dragonstone, Mysaria, the White Worm, looks like she's back. Is discovered as a stowaway and brought to Daemon. He accuses her of conspiring with the Greens and setting back Rhaenyra and the Blacks. Daemon orders her locked up with Eric defending her honor. This leads to Daemon inferring maybe Eric is just as much a traitor as his brother. And, they also talk in this scene about Mysaria shares that Otto actually betrayed Mysaria, even though Mysaria did help her. And, do you, Carlos, do you blame Mysaria for, doing what she did at the end of season one? Or are you just like, hey,
No,
she's just doing what she needs to do to, protect her and hers?
I think, yeah, I mean, she had no reason to defend or join the blacks. I don't even think she was part of the Greens versus blacks in the beginning. She was just a consort to Daemon, and Daemon used her. So I think at a certain point she was just trying to get hers, but I really don't think she knew what she was getting into. I think she was in over her head when she was dealing with Otto Hightower. I think she thought, oh, I have this bargaining chip, and once I give it to him, he's going to give me what I want,
Mm-hmm.
which was ridiculous because once you let go of your leverage, you got no leverage. Once your bargaining chip is gone, why does anyone have to hold to whatever agreement you had, especially in Westeros? I
Yeah.
mean, it was kind of a similar mistake that Ned did, except Ned was honorable. Massaria was not. She was just naive.
Yep.
Naive and a little I don't want to say dumb. She just wasn't schooled. She didn't have that street IQ like she's at the next level of street IQ now, I feel. But yeah, she had to take a loss on that one.
Yeah, no, she definitely did. Sad to see it. So, next we see that Rhaenyra returns from her search and she joins the War Council. Daemon offers to take Harrenhal to have a foothold in the Riverlands, and Rhaenys notifies her that the Sea Snake has blockaded the Gullet, ending all trade with King's Landing. But all Rhaenyra wants is the end of Aemond. She said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I quote, "Bring me his head." So she
Yeah.
said, "I
Yeah, there's
bring
something
me
like
his
that.
head," something like that. I wanted his head. Bring me his head. Something. I'm like, mother grieving. Duh. This is why you don't mess with the moms and their children,
Yeah.
man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
she straight up, she named him too. She's like, I want Aemon. Like, I
yeah,
want, I want that fool. I want his head.
yeah, his
So,
head. Exactly. Yes, there's, and then we see an emotional exchange between Rhaenyra and Jace about the death of Luke, and we also learn that the Aarons and the Vale will ally with the Blacks if they provided a dragon. Alicent lights a candle for Luke, demonstrating her humanity and her sympathy. So, do you think that Alicent, is genuinely sad about the death of Luke, or is she just doing this to like clear her conscience? Like, hey, like I know we're still right, but yeah, I guess it was bad. Was it a genuine moment for her or no?
I think so. I think it was genuine. I mean, we see her turning, she's becoming more pious. She's becoming like more of a follower of the seven. And at the end of season one, we see she just has the light of the seven, all of this iconography everywhere. So, and she's becoming, visiting the sept more often. So because she's becoming more of a believer, I think there is a part of her that, and she's a mother. And I think as a mother, she understands the fear of what it's like to possibly lose a child.
Yeah,
So I really do think she in that moment she is very humanized, and she feels for Rhaenyra. I think she didn't want that. That's for sure. That's why she's blaming Aemon and like, why the hell are you in this council meeting? You started all this. So the last thing she wanted was Rhaenyra's kin to be killed. So I'm sure part of it is, oh, I need to do right by the gods. But I think a big part of it, the biggest part of it is this shouldn't have happened. Not to Rhaenyra. I have feelings about her. I don't have feelings towards her kids.
facts.
And I really do think. I mean, yeah, one of them cut the eye out of Aemond, but he didn't deserve to be chomped by Vagar. Like
I
that
know.
scene. God, God.
Such a, oh my gosh, such a grisly scene.
Yeah. Oh,
R.I.P.
jeez.
And he was so young. He was so young.
I know. Yeah, he was so man, and he was doing his job well. Like
Yes.
he went to Storm's End, and he was just like, "I'm not here to fight you. I'm an emissary. Don't shoot the messenger. Look, bro, this is all I want." Like he was doing his job. I was
Yeah.
like, "Good man." And man, yeah,
Game of Thrones kills us all again on the inside.
yeah. Oh man. Okay, so Damon gets intel from Assaria about potential informants in King's Landing. How she maintains this intelligence network when she was imprisoned, I have no idea. And actually, I'm going to pause here. I want to ask you, Calvin, how the hell does somebody maintain that type of network during this time period? Like, how does any master of Whisperer do this? Like, it's crazy, right? I mean, there's no internet, there's no social media. How do
That,
you do
that
this?
that's so true. Like I always wonder who are the master of whisperers? Who's doing the whispering here?
Yeah, right?
all these whisperers everywhere. Like you must know a lot of people. You must have created like a really strong network, right? Just in the way that in the original Game of Thrones series, Varys was master of whisperers, and he was getting real actual intel on Daenerys's movements and where she
Yeah,
was, where they were
all the way
going.
in Essos,
Accurate.
right?
Accurately. And it traveled. You think of the game Telephone where like you start with one thing and then end with another, it's like
Oh,
completely
yeah,
different. No,
it's
his information was
completely different.
accurate. And then we got to like season
Yeah.
2 and 3, and then they were in the council meeting, Varys and Cersei and Tywin, and then Varys was like, she has 3 dragons, just to let y'all know. And she actually
Yeah,
had dragons. Like
that was
what?
like, yeah, he was even like, oh, she's in Karth. Oh, do you want to assassinate her? Just tell me and I'll send the message. Like, what
Exactly.
pigeon are you sending over that? What raven is going to carry that?
Thank you.
Like,
Thank you. So,
like it's insane.
yeah, I think that I think it's impossible to know like how this network is being built, who's been talking to her in prison, all this. I'm sure, we see like their dirty guards all the time in prisons. They'll like pass messages, like whatever. Who knows? But I think the ultimate point that is making is never never underestimate the small folk. The small folk,
Yes.
the
Yes.
regular
Here,
people,
here.
they will
Well said.
find a way to get
Oh yeah.
information across. They will find a way to create networks. They will band together and do what needs to be done to get a message from point A to point B. And I think it's
Oh yeah.
overall just this commentary on, the strength that small folk have when they put their minds together and when they band together and for whatever it might be. And I think this is an
Oh
example of
yeah.
that.
Absolutely. Definitely. I think the small folk get underestimated a lot
Yep.
because, the noble lords, I think Ned said this in season one. He said they I'm going to butcher this quote, something to the extent of the small folk care not for what games. Oh no, it wasn't Ned Stark. My bad. Everyone's going to
Was it
cancel me for
Cersei?
that. It was not Cersei. It was, oh geez, Daenerys's right hand man. Um,
Jorah.
Jorah Mormont. He says
Yeah.
the small folk don't care about what games the High Lords play. They
Hmm.
care about rain, they care about crops, they care about feeding their families. So, yeah, I think a lot of times, just like you said it, underestimating the small folk messes you up.
Yep.
And I just wonder, is he sending messages? Are they sending little messages or are they actually doing the telephone thing? Because if they're doing the telephone thing and they're getting accurate intel, that's really impressive. Like, that's really, really impressive. I don't know how that survives all those different dialects, survives the accents of the North.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how.
I know.
Right?
That's a good point. But remember when it was in one of the last episodes that no, the very last episode that we see Varys alive. Remember, there's actually right before Daenerys burns him with Drogon, we see like a little kid come to him. Remember? And he's like, Varys
Oh,
tells him something.
yeah,
I like
that's
do this,
right.
like an actual that's his like actual whisperer,
That's his
So
little bird. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, little bird. So I think it actually is. I think it's actual people and that's
Wow.
how they're
Yeah,
sending it.
that's impressive.
Because Ravens can
That's a
get
hell of it.
Ravens can get intercepted. So I don't know if it's Ravens.
Yeah, that's a hell of a training course.
Right.
All right, so Damon recruits a City Watch guardsman who he absolutely despises the High Towers. If anything, he says "F the High Towers," you know, and he actually he also recruits this indebted rat catcher who's like looking for a new score. And because they don't have names that they've given to Damon, or at least according to Fire and Blood, the book, the names have been lost to history, as Maester Munkin says. They go by the names of Blood and Cheese, respectively. So Damon pays them half now, half later, right? It's pretty standard, to find and slay specifically Prince Aemon Targaryen. He has one eye and silver hair. This was the description that Damon gave them. And they ask, what if we don't find him? And he doesn't answer, but later on in the scene, we understand that Damon had said to them, well, a son for a son. So Blood and Cheese, they slink through the sewers, thanks to Cheese's knowledge of the tunnels, because he's a rat catcher. They infiltrate the Red Keep, and they're posing as these like late night exterminators who are just doing a little rat catching in the evening. They make their way to the royal chambers, and who do they encounter? Helena Targaryen. So at knife point, they ask her which of her children is the prince. She points to the prince. Yeah. I'm shaking my head too. Oh my God. Now, Blood, he thinks it's the other one. It's the other one. It has to be because Helena's not going to give up her son, the prince. But Cheese, after looking at her for a long time, says, nah, she speaks true. So what was she trying to do, Calvin? She was trying to mind F with them, right? She was just trying to like do this whole like this switcheroo, right?
Yeah, and I think we may talk about it later, but it's a a, a play on what happens in the actual book. And
Yes,
maybe we can
yes.
like talk about that a little bit because the way that it plays out in the book is quite different from the way that it plays out in the show. But I do think that she was just trying to trick them. She was trying to point them to the wrong son by doing some like reverse psychology. Like
Yeah.
let me
Oh
point
yeah.
at the right one you'll think it's the wrong one because I would never tell you who the right one is. And then they're like,
Yeah,
"Oh no,
exactly.
we're already 2 steps
This
ahead of you.
some
Reverse psychology.
yeah,
You're actually
reverse
playing
all
for
the
the right
reverses.
one." Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was trying to
Yeah,
double trick him, but good job, nice
she was
job.
trying to outsmart them, and and she's outsmarted her. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
so then this really horrible scene where we hear the young boy Jaehaerys, Prince Jaehaerys, he kind of yelps, they silence him, and then you hear just the most disgusting like squelching sounds and sawing sounds. It's rough. So they kill the prince, obviously. They saw off his head while Helena escapes with her daughter, Jaehaera, right? Twin to Jaehaerys. She's running to Alicent's chambers. And when she enters, what does she see? She sees Alicent and Kristen. What are they doing? Having another private session? Some late night action.
They're getting it in. They're getting it in, man.
Yeah, he's laying some royal pipe down. And the scene ends with Alicent asking, well, first of all, Alicent's like, whoa, what are you doing in here? Like, I'm busy. And oh my God, you just saw like my secret's out. But poor Helena is completely distraught. And the scene ends with Alicent asking, well, what happened? And Helena says, they killed the boy. End of scene. So, Calvin, thoughts, man. What happened? How did you feel about this blood and cheese scene? Wild, right? Crazy.
Absolutely crazy. Scenes like this make Game of Thrones what it is. Game of Thrones is never afraid to go dark, to go grisly. Scenes like this is the reason why people tune into Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, all that. It's because of grisly scenes like that. And they did it in such a way that they don't show you what's happening, but the sounds that are coming are just so visceral that you're just like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely horrible, right?
It is.
And so
terrible.
This is like borderline, like is this, should they even be doing this? Like, this is the death of a child, right? But
and honestly, I'm surprised they didn't show it, because given how much violence there is in like a lot of shows these days. Right. And I'm talking like the boys, I'm talking like a lot of stuff like that. Like, I can imagine there were a lot of people who were like, what happened? Why didn't they show it? But the way they did it, I think was even worse. Because like you said, the sound, they leave a lot of it to the imagination. And I have to tell you, man, the lead up to that part, the part where we're following blood and cheese as they're going through the castle, even though we're following the perpetrators, right? Man, I was tense. Yeah. That whole scene, I was just like, oh my God, what's happening? And the way he was like, oh, they're for the rats, to the handmaiden who like sees him. I was just like, this is brilliant. This guy's like, take these traps for appearances. He even says for appearances. Like, I was just like, this is fantastic. This is amazing.
So good. So good.
And that wraps up another epic episode of the Epic Saga Society.
We hope you enjoyed diving into today's story as much as we did.
Remember, every saga has its own unique twists and turns, and we're here to uncover them all.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate us, review our podcast. Your support helps us bring more Epic Saga to life. And in the comments below, let us know, what were your top favorite scenes? What did you think of the opening scene with Jace and Cregan Stark? What do you think about the episodes to come? Put all your comments, thoughts down below.
Yeah, thank you for joining us through the epic and the extraordinary. Until next time, keep the spirit of adventure alive.
This is Calvin
and Carlos
signing off from the Epic Saga Society. Stay epic.
Stay epic.